Hello, welcome. Thanks for watching. I'm Marty McGurk, and this is the December 2016 video update on my HO scale Central Vermont Railway. So I really haven't bought all that much model railroad stuff this month, but one thing I did get was this package the other day from my good friend Ted Collada's company Speedwitch Media, and it's a resin kit for a Ann Arbor 74,000 series single sheath boxcar. Just to give you a look at what comes in these kits, you have a very nice set of instructions that has information about the prototype, some prototype photos. There's more of those available in various places like on the web or in Railway Prototype Cyclopedia. There's also several nice photos of step-by-step photos and step-by-step instructions on how to assemble the kit, and some close-up pictures of the finished model. So I'm looking forward to building this one. It'll go in the to-build pile. I've got an awful lot of cars in the to-build pile right now. And I'll let you see what it looks like. This is the, unlike some of the earlier resin kits like Westerfield's, or which are still available, of course, or Sunshine, or some of the Finero and Camerlengo kits, this is a one-piece body, so essentially it's not all that much different to build than, say, an undecorated resin or injection molded plastic car like you get from Intermountain or Red Caboose or some such Atlas. The difference is, of course, because this is not styrene, it is resin plastic. It needs to be, the parts that you glue on need to be glued on with ACC or super glue. It's not going to work with regular liquid styrene cement like Testors or 10X. It comes with a sprue of Tichy detail parts. Those are pretty typical. Here is the underframe, nicely detailed underframe. I can't believe the way they are able to cast these things these days and get the undercuts and all the pieces like this. You used to have to glue a piece of styrene strip to the top of a flat piece now, but now you get all these undercuts and these nice dimensional pieces to the castings. These cars were built as door and a half automobile cars, and then in the late 1930s they were converted to a bunch of them were converted to single door cars. This is the single door version, and this is the doors. So those will get glued on here like that when the resin flash is cleaned off them. And then there's another sheet of resin parts. This one comes with trucks, the appropriate trucks for the car. Very nicely done Speedwitch decals, and everything really but the couplers. It includes everything you need but the couplers and the paint. So they're not cheap, but they're very unique cars, and there's not many of these kits that are made at a time, and these are very, very well done. So like I said, I'm looking forward to building that. The other thing I did this month is spent a lot of time cleaning up the basement, cleaning out the basement, and also working on my modeling desk here. You notice there's people that have been down in the basement may have noticed before, having a clear surface on my modeling desk is a pretty unusual event. The reason for that is quite simple. My old desk that I had used for many, many years finally gave up the ghost, and actually the back corner leg on it finally broke, and I was, rather than repair it, my wife had this spare table left over in her sewing room that she wasn't using because she got a special table for her sewing machine. So I went ahead and absconded with this table and made it my table down here in the basement. So this is my modeling desk, and it's nice and clear, and I'm sure it won't be that way for very long. So rather than do a complete walk around tour of the layout this month, stand by next month. I'll do a walk around tour if I do another update. If anybody watches this, I thought what I'd do here is show you a little bit of a couple of scenes that I'm actively working on. This first one is the Essex Junction, Vermont scene, and you can see here I've got a couple of jig built turnouts, Fast Tracks number 7 jig turnouts that I built. I do draw track plans, contrary to what some people claim. I do actually do scale drawings of track plans, but when I do the scale drawing, the very first thing I do is sort of plan out the scene full size with as many of the elements as I can. That's what you see here. This is the wood base. This piece of wood with black splotched paint on it is the wood base for my model of the Essex Junction train shed. The sides of the train shed are here. There's 4 of these pieces. These are laser cut sides. The plan is to, these fit in these notches down here. The plan is to go back and put brick paper or brick surface, probably use the N-scale architect brick material, which is actually HO scale. And I will go ahead and use that on here. Here's another piece. And so there's 4 of these wall sections. This shed is about 22 inches long. The other thing that has to go on here is I'll have to scratch build an off, or the actual passenger station itself, which will be a small building right about here. And then there'll be a road here with some shops and stores on it out here in front of the fascia. I've modeled this scene before. I built it a number of years ago, gosh, back in the mid to late 1990s. I had an N-scale Central Vermont layout in a basement of an apartment that we rented, a townhouse that we rented. And that is this one here. What you see here is an article I did in the 1998 issue of Kalmbach's Model Railroad Planning, and the article was on the N-scale model, and this is the N-scale train shed I built, so this gives you an idea of what this scene is going to end up look like. Here's the actual station and office area here. This is the train shed, and then there's a short platform here. So that's the scene that we're working towards. There's really 2 sections to the Essex Junction scene. The first is the train shed, obviously. And the second is an area just a little south of the train shed where there was a Y with a bunch of industries sort of inside the Y. Now, I don't have room to actually model the full Y track here, all 3 legs of the Y that connect together. So what I'm doing instead is over here, we walk down this way, you'll see another fast tracks turnout will whiz by there. In this corner, which used to be the scene of the turntable, as you can see it's filled in now. There was no turntable at Essex. The Y tracks here are represented by these pieces of flex track that I just kind of have flopped down here. As you can tell, that's how I finalize the track plan. I just push pin down pieces of flex track until I come up with an arrangement that I find actually works full size. The pieces of flex track represents one leg of the Y, and then over here we have another leg of the Y that'll come off more like this, down to this direction, and they'll just fold into the wall there, or go and stub end at the wall, and they won't actually connect to each other down in this corner back here. Part of the problem is it's way too far to reach back there. This is about as far as I can reach comfortably from the floor. I can stretch and reach a little further, but certainly don't want any track that far back. It's okay to step up on a step ladder and put a hill or a building or something back there, but it's certainly not something you want somebody trying to switch or reach while they're operating the layout. So that's what we got for Essex Junction. Now we're going to take a break and go to the other side of the layout room, or down the other end of this aisle, and take a look at what we're doing in the Waterbury scene. Well, we're back. So here we are at the other end of the peninsula. This is the lobe end of the peninsula, and this is, if you've seen any photos of my layout either on the blog or in articles, this is the more or less completed fall scenery area of the layout. Some of the structures aren't quite finished yet, but this looks much further along, obviously, than the scene we just looked at. One thing I did get done this past summer into the fall was I built this scratch-built model of the Demerit cannery. This is one of the industries that was at Waterbury, Vermont. It's based on some photos I found and some portions of the building that are still standing. And I have to say I'm relatively pleased with how this came out. This is a pretty big structure, but it's pretty simple, like most buildings in New England or northern New England. It's pretty straightforward construction, but I had a good time building it. The other thing I got to work on in Waterbury next is the station. Right now, my operating crew likes to tell me that they hope it doesn't rain in Waterbury, because if it does, all our passengers and the operator in the station is going to get rather wet. I did get my friend Bernie Kempinski laser cut the station model here for me, and when he laser cut it, the windows that he laser cut, they weren't paintable. They were just printed on acetate. They weren't really laser cut, so I had him laser cut some window frames for me, window mullions, and I'm going to go ahead and paint those the right color and install those in here. So hopefully this will move along a little faster. Keeping with the theme of having to put roofs on the buildings, you can see the freight house. The basic shell is complete. Move these guys out of the way. I need to add the doors to the freight house and the trim around the doors, and then obviously add the roof. The roof is actually built for this. It's sitting on the other side of the basement. It's actually in the workshop in the back room, in the paint booth right now drying. So I do have to drop the roof in place on this at some point. And then the two-story version of the old freight house is there. That's scratch built. So in these two buildings, the prototype, they were separated by about 8 inches. You'd actually walk through the two buildings right here. There was a door in this end of this building and this end of this building, and you would be able to walk through and step across the sill, but there was a gap between them. It was about an 8 to 10 inch gap. It's pretty crazy. So the other spot that I'm working on right now is this area down here, which is the north end of Waterbury. And as you can see, because of where this is in the basement, this is the narrowest part of the basement right here. And then right over here we have the utility room door. If I can zoom out, you can see that. So that's the door into the furnace room, and we need to be able to get in there and get in and out, move into stuff in and out. So really the net width of this scene is about, roughly a foot. So it can't be anything too deep, and I also don't want to run the track all the way to the edge here. I want to give some room here in case something falls off the track. It falls onto the ground and not onto that ground down there. So what we want to do is keep the track running about this distance in, which gives us about 5 to 6 inches here, and then once we get this siding, we got about 3 inches. Well, what does that mean? Well, we have to put what is basically a shallow relief building in there, or a backdrop building. So there's a couple of ways to hide where the building joins the edge of the backdrop here. We'll work on that a little bit, but what we'll do in the next couple of months is show you how we're building this. And this scene is one last piece of unfinished scenery between the scenery in the Waterbury area and the scenery over here in this area. So what we need to do is connect the two together. So that's what we're going to do. One thing we will do is there's a bridge overpass that goes here, roughly here. I just managed to pop off the grating from the bridge when I picked it up a few minutes ago off camera, and so I need to glue that back on, obviously. But the bridge overpass will go here, and then down by that spur you see in the distance will be a furniture factory, the Eldridge Furniture Factory. I have a prototype picture of it. It's on the blog this week in the Wordless Wednesday post in the blog. But you can see from the prototype photo that you can see this was taken from the overpass. It runs down to the town of Waterbury is in the distance there, and you see on the left the furniture factory, and that furniture factory will end up right about here, cut off a little bit. So we have the angled roof and the front wall of the factory, and then the doors for unloading and loading the box cars. And then going back here, you see the other shot you saw, the prototype picture shows the houses that were along here, sort of a raised section right by the overpass, and then some houses, and those will be visible right along here. So you'll be able to see those right in this area. Directly across the tracks from the Demerit Cannery is these Derby and Ball building, and I scratch built both of these based on prototype photos of the structure in Waterbury. And the two structures in Waterbury that were the Derby and Ball building, they actually made, believe it or not, baseball bats and skis. And so that was the two products that were being made at the time that I'm modeling. I always feel like these buildings are a little big for this spot. But what I obviously need to do here is fill this gap in down here. There's a spot down here where the garage doors are sitting on grass because it just fits better there. So I'm going to permanently blend this building into the scenery here. And then I need to weather these doors and windows on this building a little bit, and then put some more lumber in the wood yard here in this area. So we'll go ahead and do that. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, to further blend the entire scene. I'm going to have to go ahead and put some more grass in here, some telegraph poles, and some other stuff. This is the south wall of the Demerit Cannery. So that'll help really blend this whole area in together here and make this a little bit more finished. So that's it for the video update for December 2016. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry that my filmmaking is not up to par. I'm going to keep working on it a little bit, but thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next month.